floor is yours, Dimitrios.
Thank you. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, slightly change the title because I want to touch also about sustainability of what we're doing in on these things, because it's very important and it's one of the things we focus on a lot. So my name is Dimitrios. I based at Queen's University, Belfast. If you're not familiar, we are in Northern Ireland, just an hour flight from London or a couple of hours driving from Dublin. I'm the chair of biofabrication advanced manufacturing here at Queen's, and I'm also chair at United Kingdom and Ireland Control Release Society and on the APS Emerging Technology Focus Group. I put the BSI standards because I sit on the committee of the BSI AMT 8, so any standards coming for additive manufacturing pass from my desk, so I'm very familiar with those. Just a few things about our university. So Queen's, if you're not familiar, rank in the top 200 in the world, and we are part also of the Russell Group, which is 24 leading research-intensive universities. The School of Pharmacy is always on first or second in UK for the last 10 years, and we're in the top 40 in the world as a School of Pharmacy. Now, my group is focusing on emerging technologies, and we're focusing in 3 technologies specific, and those are 3D printing or additive manufacturing, microfluidics that we're preparing the chips using 3D printing also, and electrospinning, we're using melt electrospinning also. That is a type of 3D printing if you think on the application. So on those 3 areas, we are one of the top 10 labs in the whole world also, so it's good of what we're doing. So just to mention a few things, so we are focusing on emerging diagnostic and therapeutic technologies. So we are working a lot with industries, 95% of the labs sponsored by companies, and we're doing from the conceptualization of the idea. We're working with them about formulation manufacturing. We're using a lot of quality by design, and PAT technologies. And then we're doing the formulation. So we do formulation by using microfluidics or additive manufacturing or electrodynamic processes. So it depends of the company interest on those things. We having a very strong ex vivo and in vivo studies here, and also an animal house that we can do the animal studies on that. So we can do everything from conceptualization down to clinical studies with collaborators. As you can see, one of the most important things also of that has everything in my lab is the sustainability. And a lot of people, they move in sustainability now, but we are in sustainability for 10 years now. So before anyone else would start doing it in their labs. So why we're doing sustainability and why it's important? If you're thinking about sustainability in pharma manufacturing is far from a green industry. And I prepared a book at the moment about pharma and sustainability on this. So one of the statistics in 2018 showed that the industry produced 52 million of CO2 over the year. Now you start thinking, is it at the highest? What happened to other companies, other industries, sorry. So the automotive manufacturing industry contribute 46.4 CO2. So you can see how important it is to work around that for pharma industries. But another aspect is that we're using a lot of toxic chemicals during the manufacturing. And this is because 80 to 90% in manufacturing process are solvents. So how we can reduce the number of solvents and how we can use more environmental friendly solvents at the same time. And microfluidics and 3D printing, there are those technologies that we can do this. We can reduce the solvent and be more environmental friendly in manufacturing. So we can use design approaches to reduce, reuse, and recycle the materials that we're using, and I will show you a few examples also around that. So as I mentioned, we are an official sustainable lab in UK since 2015. We started sustainability 10 years ago, 2013. It took us time to be an official sustainable lab. We were silver for bronze for a long time. Now we are silver, and now we're looking about also for a gold, to be a gold sustainable lab. And if you want to learn more about this, we have a few papers around that topic. And as I mentioned, we're preparing a book also currently. The technology we're using mainly is 3D printing, microfluidics, electrospinning. I will show you examples about 3D printing, but also a couple of examples of 3D printing since we're using the microfluidics, using 3D printing to prepare those microfluidic devices. I'm sure this has been known to everybody, but 3D printing is not new. Yeah, we think that is new, is not. It's since 1984 that we're familiar with this. However, for pharmaceutical applications, the first and only approved FDA formulation oral drug was in 2015, August 2015. So if you think about it, that was exactly 8 years ago. And there are not anymore on this. And the reason is because there are a lot of considerations or regulatory considerations, material considerations, printer type considerations, and this is what we need to work together with all these manufacturers, both new materials for 4D printing also on this, but also with the companies about producing a better pharmaceutical printers on this. So of course, now we have 4D printing, you have 5D printing, 6D printing, 7D printing, and if you laugh and don't laugh, I'm serious about the 7D and 8D printers. So, but we will discuss that about on the discussions after, on the panel discussions. Now, the 4D printing introduced in 2013, but it's not that popular. We are one of the first groups also that we focus in 4D printing for pharmaceutical and tissue engineering applications on that. And so it's about cell transformation and should be predictable and programmable, and it's provided by one of more external stimuli like a pH, temperature, humidity, light. If you think about traditional pharmaceutics, we already have tablets dissolved in a specific pH. So those materials, they're just doing a different behavior like expanding or changing dimensions or anything or swelling on this after the 3D printing. Now, with 3D printing, we can use, for example, 25% of materials using SLS is currently wasted. So we have to think about ways that we can use those, reuse those materials. And advancing that in manufacturing implementation could reduce the CO2 emissions by 300 to 8 metric tons per year. So you can see that by using also more sustainable applications on this, we can reduce the CO2, but we can reduce also the materials it's been used for our applications. Now, you can also use some materials, for example, like ABS, PLA, can be recycled using Holmer extruders. We have a number of single and twin extruders here in our lab, so we can reuse those materials, and you can make sure that you're not spending a lot of that in your labs, especially useful for thermoplastics. But those materials can be processed into filaments, or it can be pelletized, for example, and it can be used for with other printers at the same time. It doesn't have to be only FDM printer, because you can pelletize them and extrude it, or granulations on that and use granules on the same time. So it can be used for with a different printer type. It depends what type of printer you have in your lab. My lab is focusing in drug delivery applications, and we do a lot of different drug delivery, and you can find more information in our dedicated website. Of course, there is not possible to cover all of this in the last 15 minutes, so I will focus on some of the applications that I think will be more attractive, but more than welcome to discuss any of the other applications we have in our lab. And when you're talking about, when you're thinking about new applications, you need to know the application. You need to discuss the application with the clinician. So what we do is we are in a medical school, okay? So we are here, School of Pharmacy and Medicine. We are in a hospital campus. So I can grab a coffee with my colleagues, clinician colleagues, and discuss the application. And then the design is very important. So that's why we're talking also today. So design is very important for this. And then after the design, you're selecting the materials and then the printer types. A lot of people, they're asking me which one is the best printer for my lab. This is the wrong question you're asking. So you need, it's not one printer can do everything. Okay, let's be realistic. You need to know what your materials you're going to use, and especially what your designs, what you're planning, what you're trying to do in your lab. We are fortunate enough to have over 25 printers in our labs covering every available type in the market, food printers, cement printers, powder printers, FDM, bioprint, anything you can imagine we have in our facilities. Around 30 printers now in the facility here. So you can see that we're well equipped and we can do the different applications of any materials on that. Now, why pharma is interested in 3D printing? It's interesting because it's more flexible dose control systems. You can use complex formulations like multiple APIs together, and also provides a solution to today's early phase formulation challenges. So we have a lot of projects with companies about preclinical evaluation, like before they will start using the clinical studies, because they need to reduce the amount of materials they're using and be more sustainable at the same time, but also be faster on after in the production lines. Personalized medicine, we talk about personalized medicine since ancient Greeks and ancient Greek doctors like over 4,000 years ago, but we're still working on this. But I think we are more close to the personalized medicine produced at farms or hospitals. A lot of people, they're discussing about this. I cannot see this coming very soon, but of course, we never know with the technology changing on this, what is the future coming. Now, there are advantages of using polymeric dosage forms, and for example, longer-acting products. We can improve patient compliance and convenience on that. We can improve the pharmacokinetic profiles, like we can have more controlled delivery systems at the same time, and potentially allow lower dosing and reduction side effects. And that's one of the things also that we're focusing on. We'll show you examples in a moment. So very quick, I will spend around a minute about from each case studies, but we have time for discussions after in the panels. So this is some of the things I would just to highlight some of the projects, the case studies. So the first one is about ocular applications. One of the clinicians from King's College London, she came to me and she said, can we do something about 3D print for ocular? I said, what is about the disease? So glaucoma affects over 75 million patients, and by 2040 there will be around 112 million cases. And I wasn't aware that it was so high. And so what they were saying that they will do a small operation in the back so we can put an implant inside in the back of the eye. So we prepare a different polymers. This is the ones I can show you because now we are doing animal studies and we've gone well. We're going for clinical evaluation. So this is about using PCL with chitosan. The reason we use chitosan inside the PCL is to change the biodegradability also on that, because we need it to be dissolved in specific timings and the release profiles on that. So we did a lot of in vitro and in vivo studies on this. This is the implant. You can see how tiny it is next to the pound on that. And we saw that we got a very good construction and original areas on this also. So as I mentioned, we published a couple of papers around this topic, and now we have changed, modified the release profiles, modified the polymers, and we do more animal work on that for this application. Now, another issue is with the 3D-based oncology. So cancer is a leading cause, as we know, of death worldwide, accounting for nearly 10 million deaths in 2020. So the average efficacy rate of cancer drug is as low as 25%, suggesting that 75% of cancer patients suffer from overdoses and potentially adverse reactions. So what we did, so we prepare implants that it can be used either for breast or bone or prostate. So for example, for this application, we use it for prostate cancer. So you can use very tiny implants, similar of what you're making for your ocular and smaller also, and it can be implanted on this. And this is for you can see that our implant, the control, so the survivability, the cells love it. the implant empty love it also. There was no problem on this. So as soon as we put the drugs inside the cancer drugs, you can see start increasing straight away. But what else we did is, in case we need to be localized and use radiation, we use metallic nanoparticles inside, which one of the first attempts also on that. We published this work. It was the first case of putting metallic nanoparticles with drugs inside for in vitro in vivo evaluation of those studies. Something very close to my heart is about scaffolds for a DFU, and that's because my mom was suffering on this. And this is, as I said, talk to patients, talk to doctors to understand the issues. So DFU is a diabetic wound healing, and nearly half of the diabetic wound healing become infected. And so this is the presence of infection can significantly hinder the wound healing process. And many times you have a risk of bioinflammation and lower limb amputation. It's very high, the number of lower limb amputations from DFUs. So after discussing with doctors, they mentioned that they want a system that they will kill the bacteria, however, keep the bacteria away, be able to monitor it without disturbing the area, but at the same time provide the support for the healthy cells to coming up. So I thought about a window. So windows, you have the frame. So here in the frame, we have a 2-layer of our antibiotics. So the first layer is a burst release. You're killing all the bacteria that is there. And then the next layer is very sustained release, and the bacteria will not coming back to keep the bacteria away. Now, you can see here the malfunction. I put my finger to make this malfunction. You see here very nicely. So this is like the glass, okay? This is the window. And this is a transparent material we use in BioInk with a biological molecule inside and growth factors to support the cell growth back. So we're supporting the cells to coming back on that. Very flexible, very easy to be used from the doctors. We have done in animal studies on this. We're all over the news before Christmas about that, and we're all over the news also just during summer by continue this work by doing in this case coaxial bioprinting and with essential oils for this, and I will show you in a moment that example. So we use, as I mentioned, coaxial bioprinting on that by combining it with a microfluidic devices. So what we did is we manufactured nanoparticles with the microfluidics, and at the same time we put those inside our BioInks, and we are you can see here, this is just with an ink to show you during the printing process. So you're having your material, so you can have a different material outside, different inside, so you have a dual action on this. So what we did is we combined the microfluidics with the coaxial bioprinting, and we prepared pegylate liposomes, which is for targeting on this, and we use hydrogen scaffolds. Inside of this, we put controlled delivery of essential oils to be more sustainable also as an application. We saw an amazing antibacterial efficacy. Our confocal analysis showed that our particles was inside also, and we have a clear coaxial application on that, and they were also very stable as a system. So this was another application for wound healing by using now more like essential oils and more sustainable application. Another sustainable, if you think about it, like back in 2018, myself and Professor Durumis, that is speaker after the break, we were the first in the world that we print solid 3D printing microneedles. However, the next generation is the dissolving microneedles, and by using dissolving microneedles on that, you need to have specific designs, and you need to have specific materials. Imagine having a dissolving microneedle for vaccination, send it to you overnight. So they will be reducing a lot the cost, reducing, be more sustainable also on that production at the same time. So this is microneedles in my hand. We have successfully printed that for different applications. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you what drugs we're using, but we have used it with biological molecules also inside that dissolve very nicely on this and on the times needed. And hopefully next time we'll be able to share more with you as soon as those buttons has been filled. Now let's talk about 4D printing. So we're talking with medics, and they said about the breast cancer. So we thought about breast cancer management. So the breast cancer affecting not only women but also men, but of course more women than men. And the doctors, it depends of the tumor, the size of the tumor. They will do different surgeries, and either they will need to remove the whole breast, for example. If it's the tumor until a specific size, they removing the tumor and then they left a hole on the back. So this hole, it needs to be filled with a very, very expensive toothpaste. So this toothpaste is very strong, is movable, it doesn't stay in one area. So we thought with discussions with them, okay, so what we can do to support on that? So you need a material that, so the doctors, they know, they have 3 sizes approximately that they will remove it. So it depends on the tumor, they will make 3 different hole, say, sizes. So we know that already, and we can do the MRI scan to know exactly what's happening. And then with MRI scan, we can prepare our 3D printing, 4D printing application. So we're preparing 4D printing for the management of that. So we prepare our 3D printing, and that will swell when it's coming with the pH of the breast, with the cancer cells there, and swelling will cover this hole, but it's also very flexible, exactly the same as the breast. So that women or men, they will not feel they have a foreign body on this, and they will not start moving around as happens with the current situation. And we managed to have a very nice system on this, and probably you have seen on the news and the LinkedIn is a lot of attention around this innovation that it came again from our lab. So we're looking about more new innovative ideas and projects on this. Of course, we're preparing also in-house manufactured microfluidic chips and lab on the chips, because this is another very strong in our lab on that. So we either producing those chips for nanoformulations to make nanoparticles, or we making biochips. That means you have inside cells or biological molecules on that. We have very strong collaboration with Salim about this. Or we making a lab on the chips, like a skin on a chip. We have 3 projects currently, very strong projects in the lab. One is an eye on a chip that it will start soon. This is a $11 million collaboration with the US. And we have also bone on a chip. We have a project about lung on a chip with a big pharma company focusing in lung diseases on that. So you can see that you can use those for a lot of different applications. Of course, you need also, it's not about using sustainable materials, but you need to reduce also the time of experiments and do less experiments at the same time. So we're using machine learning for these applications. So we're using the machine learning to understand so what's happening on this, identify patient needs and the cost control of that, and combination with sustainable also sustainability on that applications. So we're using a lot of different machine learning tools for that, and happy to have a discussion on that. So I would like to close with some considerations for the 3D printing. One is about regulatory considerations. So we know that FDA proposed some in-process and post-process quality control actions. So we need to make sure that we have a good quality on that application. So for all of our printers, we have PAT tools. For example, we have a Raman, NIR, middle IR, thermocamera, that is all of that assembled in our printers. So we will be able to see the quality and analyze what's happening. But of course, you need also to understand the post-fabrication cleaning of excess materials, sterilization, and biocompatibility evaluation of those. And this is things we need to consider about in regulatory. Now, in clinical, again, and another things, it is about the in-process and post-process quality. So we need to make sure that we have a quality on that. So non-destructive and easy to apply quality controls. We need to measure, they need to be established for these applications in hospitals. Packages and labels need to be used to address the needs for personalized medicine. We need to make sure that all these are clear on that. We're going to need a formulation unit to have in the hospital to avoid any potential contamination. So you need to have an expert on that. In the United Kingdom, we have biomedical engineers or medical engineers in the hospitals. So maybe them can be trained for such applications. But this will be some discussions on that. And due to numerous 3D printing technologies currently in the market, it is a challenging to select which type is the best. So we cannot have 30 different printers that we have in our lab in a facility. That will cost a lot of money, and that's not going to be also sustainable at the same time, and value for money on that. If you'd like to learn more about 3D printing, we currently have 3 books in 3D printing published, and the first book in 3D and 4D printing for pharmaceuticals published a month ago with the AAPS, American Academy of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and another 2 books, one in 3D printing, one sustainability, and that will cover aspects of 3D printing are coming in early 2024. Of course, I have to thank all our sponsors. This is our current sponsors in the lab. As I mentioned, over 95% of our work is in this sponsor. And I would like to thank all my team, currently 18 members, and we're expecting another 10 people starting next month on that. So if you'd like to join our team, send me an email. We have always positions opening. And I would like to thank you all for your attention. And as always say, you can use Dr. Google or Professor Google if you want. That can bring you back 100,000 answers. But if you want to bring you the right one, ask the right people always on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dimitrios, for such a great talk. Happy to take any questions from audience. So please feel free to write in your